Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Mr. and Lady who are viewing at home, thank you all so much for tuning into Kinetic Aesthetic. It's your boy Germ, and y'all already know what time it is. There is a very, very big movie that just recently dropped. You probably heard about it, but if you didn't, I'm talking about Spider-Man. That is right, Spider-Man Brand New Day. This is the fourth installment in the Tom Holland-led franchise of Spider-Man. This is unprecedented territory right now because this guy is the first Spider-Man in pretty much the character's existence to get 4 movies. You know, Tobey got 3, Andrew Garfield got 2, and now we've got Tom Holland who's looking like he's going to at least get 6. So that in alone is just groundbreaking. It's crazy and it's something to talk about. But I actually was able to see the movie itself on Sunday, and I'm gonna tell y'all right now, 9 out of 10. I'm giving you the review score early because I am going to be covering the spoilers and everything that relates to this movie as we talk about it. So I'm not going to hold back, but it's a 9 out of 10, A-. And yes, if you haven't seen it already, you need to go. You need to go, get off your ass, go see it. This movie, even more so than just being a really good superhero movie, it's a really relevant movie, especially right now for a lot of men and what they're going through in this time where so many people are feeling isolated and alone and are so used to just sort of doom scrolling or just being by themselves. This is a movie that really addresses that, talks about it, and you really have a Spider-Man and a Peter Parker that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to. So I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going to get really right into it. And y'all, like I'm just going to be straight up blunt about it. This was the first movie in the 4 that I really can say that Tom Holland's Peter Parker, because I've always enjoyed him as Spider-Man. He's always been good in the role with the mask on, but this was the first time where him without the mask really did it for me, where he really, I felt for him and I felt like this is Peter Parker. And a lot of that, like I said, has to do with the themes and the whole message behind the movie. This is a movie that is really trying to push the idea that isolation, that trying to do everything on your own is bad, and that you have to always remember that it takes a community, not just to raise somebody, but to just, hold people up sometimes. And, like I said, this is a generation, this is a time right now where we've got so much stuff being thrown in our hands. We are all so sort of preconditioned to think that our phone is the most important thing. So it's just led to a real culture right now where everybody is liking to be on their own. I've always thought that America just has a very individualistic sort of mindset as a country. Like, it's a very, I want to live the American dream. I need to make something happen. I need to do what I got to do. And I understand. I get it. That's just sort of the way the world is. And I don't like it. But this movie does a good job of trying to just undermine that, because it's like woven into the fabric of our society. But I think that what Tom Holland, what Dustin Daniel Cretton and the director were going for is trying to just show people that shit is just not it. And I got to commend them for it. I have to give them a lot of credit. What they were going for, they accomplished. Peter Parker, being able to see him have this wide range of emotions in this movie. We see him sad, we see him happy, we see him quippy a little bit. And I'm talking about outside the mask, because this movie does a good job of showing us all of Peter Parker's trials and tribulations, and not just sort of having him be only depressed and only sad when he is, outside of the suit. We see everything. And I think that that's another thing that I want to start to talk about right now. It's because of how much effort and care they went into making sure that they got that part of it right. Because Spider-Man is always going to be right, but this was a movie more so about Peter Parker than it was about Spider-Man. And, it starts off with him in the beginning. We see him dealing with the repercussions of his actions at the end of the last movie, of him making that wish with Doctor Strange, where everybody just completely forgot that Peter Parker even existed. And so we literally start off with him in this movie just talking to his AI, because that's the only companion that he has. Like, even at a certain point when he is starting to really get deeper into it and he's starting to deal with the whole spider issues, as I'm going to get into, The AI is the only person that he actually really takes seriously when they tell him, yo, you are not right. You like, I'm worried about you. And so it, again, I understood what they were going for. It was really good on that aspect of it. And the other thing that was good, they didn't allow him to just sort of skirt past what happened in the last movie either. There are real repercussions based off the previous movie that he doesn't get to just like hand wave away or magically fix in this film. I'm going to talk about Zendaya and her performance in a little bit because she did a great job. But the way that the scene where she finds his note and she is talking to him about it and sort of explaining how she feels and her whole mindset about everything was not only heartbreaking, but it was real. It was honest. That's the reality of the situation. And this was a movie that did a good job. I'm gonna keep saying that the movie just did a good job, but this is a movie that excelled at making sure that everything stayed grounded, everything made sense, and that it didn't just sort of allow audiences to leave with just everything being like I said, just being wrapped up with a bow. There, even at the end of this movie, there's still issues, there's still stuff going on. You know, we see him trying to like deal with the loneliness of having lost Ned and MJ as his friend and as his girlfriend throughout the entire movie. And while things get better towards the end, while it's left open-ended if Ned actually remembered him and everything, it's still something that, you know, this is probably going to be a hook for this whole trilogy of him just rebuilding that relationship, rebuilding that friendship, and just trying to get back everything that he lost. So I have to give them a lot of credit for this movie, and I have to say that although I have some nitpicks that I'm gonna get into, this was Spider-Man. This was the best Spider-Man movie that I've seen, honestly, since Spider-Man 2. I enjoyed Spider-Man 3 and I enjoyed No Way Home, but I'm gonna be honest with you, this is a complete movie in comparison to those two. And one last thing, I'm talking about just Spider-Man and Tom Holland's performance. He did a really good job with his facial expressions. You know, there's so many scenes where there's not dialogue. Like there's a clip that we all see in the trailer of him jumping off the building and we just see his eyes inside the mask. Number one, the cinematography is great. That is amazing. Like just like having the idea to show that scene was great and beautiful. But even more so than just that, it is the shots across the city. It's the credits where they just show the city. There was a lot of care put into this movie. It's not just trying to show Spider-Man and make sure he looks good. They made New York City look good. And I felt like that was a very important thing, because a big thing that people had complained about with this Spider-Man, with the earlier Spider-Man trilogy that they had, was that it felt like, number one, there was not really a street level story in all of that. You know, even Homecoming was a bigger deal. It felt with him, you know, having to be Tony Stark's little sidekick, basically. There was a lot going on where that made it feel like it was more than just a regular Spider-Man movie. Then you go from Far From Home, where it's in London and he's in a whole nother country and you've got all this shit going on. And then No Way Home is No Way Home. Great movie and I loved it, but that was about all three Spider-Mans. It wasn't about Peter. It wasn't about Tom Holland. So this is the first movie where we really got a grounded, this is all New York. This is a New York story about their superhero Spider-Man. And I got to give it credit because, yeah, I enjoyed that first trilogy, but that was something that was noticeable that I did sort of find a little bit jarring. So it's nice to know that in this next trilogy, they look to be getting back to just giving us the grounded, regular Spider-Man where he's going through what he's going through. So now that we've talked about Tom Holland and his performance, which was amazing, I want to take another moment to just talk about the rest of the supporting cast. Ned's character was good in this movie. I thought he did a really good job of, you know, just holding it down and, you know, being that good friend. The comedy from him was a little hit or miss. There was a couple of lines from him that I know were supposed to be funny where it was just And I do feel like I like where they left off. I think Ned's actually did a good job in the last scene, but I still just have I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think, and I see some people that are like try to make theories about how he's going to maybe turn into a villain in one of the later movies. I don't think it's a good idea because I just don't think that he is probably going to be the best for that role. I don't know if I'd be able to even take him serious. Now, the other character that I want to talk about before I get into Zendaya, I want to talk about the actual main antagonist of the movie. I can't think of his name right now, but he was the lead of Damage Control. Now, this brother did a good job in this role. I will say that because even from when we first met him and Spider-Man was just immediately trusting, which was funny, but you could immediately sort of tell there was a little bit of just shysty or shadiness going on with him and the whole Damage Control organization. Like when they first show up and Spider-Man has all the guns pointed at him and they're just getting ready to do all that, that was when I sort of knew, okay, these guys aren't all they're supposed to be. This is starting to give me the feel of one of those evil Marvel organizations that, yeah, they're technically part of the government or part of the law, but they're on some shady shit. I just think that he did a really good job overall. There was so many scenes where I just couldn't tell what he was really thinking or what was really getting ready to go on. In particular, the scene where he really takes his full mask off and they show him with the antagonist of the film inside that room. I just hated him after that. Like, that was a point where I just said, yeah, nah, this nigga's full of shit. Fuck him. But the biggest one that I have to give credit to is Zendaya, of course. She did an amazing job in this movie. There's the scene on the rooftop that I'm going to talk about when I talk about the antagonist. I'm trying to save that for a little second. But that was the best scene in the movie. She deserves an award for that scene alone because I'm telling you, when she kicked herself away from Peter and fell off that roof, the way the red light was showing that evil ass smirk on her face, only for it to like leave her face, only for the red light to like disappear, and you see MJ coming back in control of herself and the panic. That's cinema. That is cinema. That is called acting. So Zendaya's on this $1 billion run right now where she really just can't miss. And the MCU just has to thank their lucky stars that they were able to cast her. They need to suit her up in something because she is almost too fucking good to just be stuck as Peter Parker's love interest. And I will also say about her performance, the chemistry between her and Tom Holland, with or without the mask, and they're married, of course, so it makes sense. This is a couple that loves each other and they probably just push each other to be the best that they can, but damn it, they are fucking good together when they are acting in the same films. I low-key want to see the Odyssey just to see all of the Tom Holland and Zendaya stuff. I don't know if they act together in any scenes, but damn, man, I am certain that if they do, it's got to be some real good shit. But yeah, no, in terms of the supporting actors, everybody did a really good job, especially Zendaya. The other guy that I want to take a moment to just give a little flowers to is John Bernthal. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I know he was on The Boys, but I'm talking about the guy who was playing the Punisher. He stole the show in a lot of the scenes that he was in, especially at the end with the way he was acting. And then the other scene, and this was my favorite scene of the movie, was when when Spider-Man has brought Mary Jane over to him for protection to keep her safe. And there's a little part where the Punisher, he sort of finds a moment to ask Spider-Man before he leaves out to go confront the antagonist, what's the deal? Like, who is she to you? Why is she important? Why did you bring her here? And Spider-Man is trying his best to play it off, to act like she's nobody, like he doesn't have anybody. And he says something along the lines of, I'm just like you, Frank. I don't have anybody in my life. And the Punisher just goes off. He goes off and he tells him, yo, I'm like this because I have to be, not because I want to be. You think I want to be this angry, aggressive motherfucker who has lost everything that matters to him in the world? It's just a really good scene, and it really just highlighted the performance that the Punisher gave. I'm a big fan of him after this movie, and I think that the Punisher deserves his own film, not just a TV show. They need to give that man a movie. But he was good. He did his damn thing. I will say that he wasn't I know that the Punisher in the comics is probably a little bit more rough, a little bit more, ruthless. They definitely hampered him a little bit because this is a Spider-Man movie, but I think that it was fine. He was good, and we need to see more of him. I think that's another thing that I've enjoyed about a lot of these Spider-Man movies. He ends up being sort of teamed up with somebody in almost every single one of them. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I've seen some people who complain that Spider-Man never gets his own like film to himself. It doesn't matter, y'all. Like, we know Spider-Man is big enough to the point where we know what we're going there for. I don't need Spider-Man to like be front and center for every single part of this movie, especially when you're in the MCU. The whole point of the MCU is that we are bringing all of these different characters together. Now we're getting to see them interact with each other. So anybody that was complaining about the Punisher, about the Hulk, about the antagonists, y'all got to just shut the fuck up as far as I'm concerned. Now, the last one I will talk about is going to be the Hulk before I get to the antagonist. I liked what we saw of Bruce Banner and the Hulk in this movie. I think it was great. I think it was a good way to set him up for Doomsday. What I didn't like is just the confusion of how we get here with the Hulk. He is the one character in the MCU where if you see him in one movie, if you see him in a show, you have to expect that by the next time you see him, and it can be years, it can be months, it can be just like it can be one more movie, he's going to be in a completely different situation. They're not going to explain how he ended up there, and it's just going to sort of just be up to you to just roll with it. And I say that because the last time we saw the Hulk, he was under the Professor Hulk thing. So what that means for those who aren't familiar, he had the mind of Bruce Banner, but he was able to utilize the body and the physique of the Hulk. So we're under the impression that these two are in harmony, that there's no real reason for them to hate each other, that the Hulk is good. And now when we see him in Spider-Man Brand New Day, he's a professor at this college. He's wearing an inhibitor, some watch-looking thing that stops him from going Hulk. And it's never really explained or elaborated upon how he ended up in that situation. We don't ever hear how he and the Hulk ended up in a bad relationship, ended up in a bad place again. We don't ever see when he got the inhibitor or get told about it. It's just, yeah, this is Bruce Banner now. He's wearing the inhibitor. No Hulk. Hulk is bad. It's confusing. It's weird. I'm brought back to the She-Hulk show where this man had a whole ass son and they never explained that. There's just a lot of things that they do with him that I just feel like I don't know why they can't just work with Universal a little bit more to get him another movie, or just figure out some type of relationship so that we're not getting confused every time we see the Hulk. But that is my only thoughts when it comes to Bruce Banner and the Hulk as a support character. I think everybody else was fantastic for the most part. So, and I did enjoy the Hulk scenes and the fight, so I'm not trying to say it like that. I just don't like the direction that they seem to take with this character. But lastly, we have to talk about the main antagonist of the film, who is actually not an antagonist, is actually going to turn into a good guy if this movie and the Secret Wars and X-Men movie are going to be anything to go by. It's Sadie Sink. It's Jean Grey. Worst kept secret in Hollywood. And you know what? I feel stupid because they introduce her character sort of early, not showing her, but basically showing who the antagonist is. And the one thing that irked me about the movie was that they had her just be a little bit too evil. You know, I had mentioned it earlier, the rooftop scene with MJ and Peter Parker, it happens after Jean Grey's character figures out who Spider-Man is. So she figures out, okay, MJ is close to him. That's who he cares about. And she decides to use that as a threat against him. Spider-Man, of course, he races to MJ's house to protect her, to make sure she's safe. And he goes up, he grabs her. After a little bit of explaining that was a little too easy, he flies her over to this rooftop because he's trying to keep her safe. And at this point, crazy scene in the movie. So MJ gets dropped down. She's perplexed, trying to figure out, who the fuck are you? Why is it that somebody is trying to get to you by going after me? And she hits him and Zendaya acted her ass off in this scene, because I'm telling you right now, I really believed that Mary Jane was putting shit together and she was starting to get her memories back. And it's a sweet moment. You start to really believe that this is happening, that Peter is about to, that the shit is just going to work out for him. And I know I said earlier that they didn't want to give him his cake and eat it too. I liked it, but I'm not going to lie to y'all. I would have been okay if he would have been able to get Mary Jane back. I enjoy Zendaya and Spider-Man as a couple. I think they have such good chemistry that I wouldn't have been upset at it. But she lifts up his mask, and it's very similar to the kiss between Mary Jane and Peter Parker from Spider-Man 1, except he's not like floating upside down, and they kiss. It's a sweet kiss. It's tender. It's like she's remembering all of her memories, and Peter is breaking down saying, I love you and I'm so happy. And then in the coldest switch up I've ever seen an actress do, Zendaya changes her whole voice and everything and just says, that's right, Peter. Hold her, kiss her, love her. And when I tell y'all, I was mad as fuck. I was mad as fuck in that movie theater. I was upset. I couldn't believe it. These motherfuckers done did my boy so dirty. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I had sort of understood I'm not familiar with the X-Men, so I wasn't necessarily sure who Jean Grey was. I know I've heard the name. I know she's in the X-Men, but I don't know her powers off the back of my head. So I'm thinking, Jean Grey can't be this character. She can't be, because this is some evil ass despicable shit. And yeah, that's my nitpick. They had her do stuff that I just think is a little bit too far. There's another part where she uses her mind possessing powers to jump into a dude's body and gets him hit by a fucking car. Trying to taunt Spider-Man, she backs the guy into the street, and this man gets flattened. And after that, we're supposed to root for her. Like, for the rest of the movie, once we learn who she is and we learn her tragic backstory, which is tragic. Like, what happened to her was horrible. They explained that her mother abandoned her and her sister, and then her sister, who also had powers, was kidnapped by this government agency on some real weird shit. And it's crazy just how much evil shit she does, and yet I'm still like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't necessarily feel the sympathy that I think that I should feel for her, and it's just because I saw her do so much unforgivable shit in that movie. I get it, she's young, I get it, she's like at best like 18, but that is not cool. You literally got a nigga hit by a car who did nothing to deserve that. And so that's the one real big nitpick I have in that. The other one is that as much as I enjoyed and appreciated the realism of Peter being in this depressed state where he can't really like open up to anybody or get close, I don't necessarily think it was smart of them to really just not have any of his extended characters show up. Like, I get maybe not wanting to do Gwen Stacy when you have everything going on with MJ, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, at this point, it's MJ. It's not gonna be Gwen Stacy. There's not gonna be another love interest that shows up. I'd be shocked if it does. I think Tom Holland and Zendaya just sort of love being able to be a couple in real life and on the Spider-Man screen. But it's going to just really, really be a strange way to go about things if we don't see any of these other characters, like a Flash Thompson, like Eddie Brock, like some of these characters that it feels like we should have at least been introduced to by now. I'm sorry if this is spoilers to anybody. In the next Avengers movie after Doomsday Secret Wars, where Tom Holland Spider-Man is going to be featured prominently, he's almost 99% certain to get the symbiote. It is what they're going to do. They've been waiting to give him the black suit for a while for a reason. Expected in Spider-Man 5, expected to literally not even be a thing of him just randomly getting it. It's just going to happen. He's going to start the movie with that suit. So I'm intrigued to see how they're going to make that work, because the question becomes, who's going to be Venom? I've seen a lot of people say that it should be Scorpion, that they should let him have it. I am just not that big of a fan of that, especially after we've seen him fight Spider-Man so much. Like, he fought him in the first one. I believe he was in the third one, and now we're seeing him in the fourth one. I'm ready for him to just take a break. I'm not saying he doesn't need to come back and just be another quick guy that Spider-Man beats up in a scene or anything, but making him the full antagonist of a movie or the main one just wouldn't work for me at this point. And other than that, I just think that it was a little unbelievable that Spider-Man had went all these years of being by himself and hadn't really gotten close or talked to anybody. Like, I understood the scene of him brushing off the girl who was trying to, flirt with them and talk about them living on the same floor. I understand that. If you're stuck on a girl after a breakup and everything, that makes sense, nigga. I, I'm sort of there. I'm sort of there right now. So I don't want to make it seem like it's like unrealistic all the way. But for him to have not gotten any other friends after Ned, that's the part that I just find a little bit egregious. There's like isolating yourself and wanting to be alone, and then there's like, nigga, who, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you haven't really like gotten any friends. Like, you just sort of, the only motherfucker that you talk to and have a good and be in a good mood when you're not in the mask is the fucking police chief. Because seriously, that was the only time where we see Peter Parker sort of smiling or being happy when he without the suit is when he's talking to this police chief. So that was just something that I was not a big fan of, and I didn't really enjoy it. But getting back to Sadie Sink and her character, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to complain about this movie basically being a setup for the X-Men and a showcase for her character in Secret Wars, but it works because they were able to connect her story and her whole arc to everything that Peter was going through. Like I said earlier in this movie, we see Peter go through every single emotion, and we see him not only go through the whole trial of being alone, of not having anybody there, but we see him come out of that or see the error of that and then start to help others who are going through, who are dealing with it. And I think that is the big thing that I enjoy about her character arc and how they handle it. This wasn't just, okay, here's a mutant, mutants are going to be important in the MCU, so we're going to just force Spider-Man to have to deal with it. The director himself had already come out and said, I've read in an interview, it wasn't about like setting up anything for Kevin Feige and the rest of the Marvel. This was about telling a story that works, that made sense, and making a good movie. And it just so happened that Jean Grey was able to help him accomplish that and check off all the boxes required for it to work. So if there's one thing I've learned from this movie, it's that this nigga Dustin Daniel Cretton, he needs to just be trusted for Spider-Man 5 and Spider-Man 6. I believe he was the guy who directed the first Shang-Chi. The guy's good, because those are all some good movies. I'm excited to see what this man's going to do. I also believe that he's the one who's going to be directing the Naruto live action movie, so expect some good shit from him. But I think that's almost everything. That's a lot of the main stuff that I wanted to talk about from the movie itself. The post-credit scene, just to talk about that right quick, it was just you showcasing the Spider app that they had been using in the movie, just something that Ned had created. And we see in the post-credit scene that it shows a Spider-Man that is appearing in space. So, spoiler warning, you don't want to know what's going to happen in Doomsday, and you don't want to know any more of what's going to probably happen in Endgame. I would pause off right now. I appreciate you checking it out. Remember, the movie was a 9 out of 10. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and whatever you are checking out. And make sure you hype up the video if you are watching on YouTube. But this post-credit scene, to me, is setting up the idea that we're going to be seeing Tom Holland in Secret Wars, because that's where that shit's going to happen. It's just going to happen in space. But what I actually believe that it's going to be doing is setting up Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield being featured prominently in Doomsday. Because I have heard there's going to be a Spider-Man in that movie. We're probably going to see Tom Holland make a cameo, but based off of everything that I have been reading and seeing, we're actually going to be getting more of Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, whether that be, I've heard about it potentially just being the opening scene, and I've heard about it being he is featured prominently the whole movie. Either way, I think that is what that post-credit scene is going to be connected to. I think they're trying to just open up the idea that the incursions are going to start, because you got to remember, this is right before Doomsday. So Doomsday is going to be about incursions, which is like realities colliding. It's like a planet appears out of nowhere, and it's just set to fucking collide and destroy both. So that what I think is going to happen is that it is going to end up being that Tobey Maguire was spotted by, because he and Peter Parker are the same person. They're just from different dimensions. And one other thing that I want to give this movie some credit for and give it some praise for, I really enjoyed that this was a grown Spider-Man. I said it earlier, He was being a good mentor to Jean Grey when he was explaining to her why she shouldn't be going down the path she was on. And that was when it really hit me that this isn't a Spider-Man that's young, that's in high school, that's really finding himself like we've been so used to. Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, that was that movie. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2 to a certain extent, hell, even Spider-Man 3 from the Sam Raimi verse, that was still a younger Spider-Man who was still figuring it out. Now, though, where we're at now with this Tom Holland, who's an adult, who's out of college, who isn't in college but is a grown adult, we're seeing a guy who is going to be able to tackle on some of the more mature Spider-Man stories, and it's going to make it that much better when we see him pass the baton to Miles Morales, because it's going to be a mature, experienced, and just well-regarded Peter Parker that's going to be able to pass the torch to Miles Morales, not a young kid passing off to another young kid. So I left this movie just being so excited for the future of not only the MCU, but more importantly of Spider-Man himself. The one other nitpick that I will mention, I've been sort of all over the place, so I apologize. I think that next movie they definitely need to include a villain. I enjoyed that opening montage that they do where they show him fighting all these villains and, you know, just how he was managing his life for the past couple of years since No Way Home. I enjoyed seeing the villains and having them recreate the comic book covers the way they did. I enjoyed the hand being involved in the movie and them being part of the final fight at the end. But I think that the next time we see Spider-Man, it's going to be important that we actually include somebody from his rogues gallery. Now, they're doing the black suit, so that includes Venom. So that's most likely going to be Venom. But I still think even if we're going to include Venom, it needs to be like Spider-Man 3. Just point blank, you sort of need to have not only Venom in there, you probably I would like them to include somebody like a Mr. Negative or someone who can provide like a phase 1 or phase 2 arc for Peter to have to go through. You know, somebody who is going to be a good villain for him to sort of have to deal with while he's got the black suit on, and potentially can put him in a position where he sort of realizes that the black suit isn't good for him. I think they have options. There's a lot of comics books, like Spider-Man has a very deep rogues gallery. I don't read comics, so I don't know. I'm still like learning names and shit, but I think there's a lot of promise if they sort of lean back into that. I enjoyed the Jean Grey aspect. I enjoyed, setting up the X-Men, but it is time for Spider-Man to really focus on Spider-Man in this next movie. And yeah, like I said before, this movie was a 9 out of 10, A-. The type of movie that you need to go see sooner rather than later, because it is just that damn good. The spider hormone shit that he was going through, the loneliness, the depression, all of that is just stuff that will work in any movie. But for them to be able to incorporate such a grounded, personal, relatable ass story to a Spider-Man movie and just doing it that way, I think that's why this one is resonating with people so well. They really might have done something special with this movie. This is the one that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I'm going to say it again. So don't be surprised if you see people even 5 or 10 years from now just still talking about this movie and how it really addressed a lot of real societal issues that we're going through. Because isolation and just like closing yourself off to people is a real problem that a lot of motherfuckers are facing. Having to deal with heartbreak, having to deal with letting somebody go that you truly love, nigga, that's something I'm dealing with right now. So I can only imagine how many other people were able to sit inside that movie theater and watch Spider-Man and be like, damn, this motherfucker just like me. And for that, I have to give a big shout out to Tom Holland, because even on the front carpet, even on the red carpet, that was something that he talked about. He made it clear. We wanted to make this movie to really help people who are in this generation, who are stuck in this doom scroll mindset, who are stuck in this ideology of, I have to isolate myself. I need to be alone. I don't want to be outside. I don't want to be around my friends. I don't want to, be out in the world because it's dangerous or scary. This is a movie that's for them people, for those types of people to just sort of put that idea in their head. That shit ain't good for you. That shit doesn't work. long term. It's not sustainable. We see Spider-Man at the beginning of this movie already dealing with some fucking issues in his wrist because he's been alone for so long that, as the movie goes on, that the spider hormones in him are out of whack. He's literally so depressed and so just in a rut mentally that his body is starting to metamorphosize because of it. And I think that's a real good lesson and a real good part of the story to take away, because that is exactly what depression and what mental illness does to you. If you don't get that shit in control, if you don't really take care of your chickens in the coop and keep everything in order, your body breaks down because your mental is damn near more important than your physical. But I'm rambling, and this is about to turn into an episode speaking about the pitfalls of depression and everything more than it is about this Spider-Man. So with all of that being said, my final grade, my final thoughts on this are that Spider-Man Brand New Day is a 9 out of 10 or an A minus. This is a movie that walks in with a lot on its plate, with a lot that it's trying to do, and not only does it succeed in setting up the X-Men effectively, not only does it succeed in setting up Doomsday and leaving us with a nice little cliffhanger that's going to keep us excited going in. It does all that, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't get too corny. It doesn't fall for any of the pitfalls that a lot of other Marvel movies, especially lately, have been falling into. And that has to be because of the care, because of the love that Tom Holland has for this character, but the artistic integrity that the director, Daniel Cretton, had as well. So I have to give them all the kudos in the world. I have to give them a lot of credit, because this couldn't have been easy, you know. Another thing that Tom Holland did when he was talking about this movie, they talked about how the original script they had for it was terrible, because what they did was they tried to listen to a lot of fan feedback. They tried to watch podcasts of people who were into Spider-Man to see what they wanted and what they would enjoy. And when they made a movie based around all that, it was fucking bad. And that should be, more than anything, an indication to everybody that they got to just trust the people who are in charge. Not for all of Marvel, but especially when it comes to Spider-Man, because the Spider-Man we have right now, he cares about it. He's given love to that character, and he's doing the best he can to make that character work every single movie. So I feel like I just spent this entire episode glazing Tom Holland, so I'm going to take this moment to remind niggas he's 5'6". He's 5'6", short ass nigga. But this has been Kinetic Aesthetic. This has been my review of Spider-Man Brand New Day. Shout out Zendaya, shout out Tom Holland, shout out Daniel Cretton, shout out Kevin Feige at this point, man. Shout out all of Marvel. Doomsday is going to be crazy. I'm excited for it, and you should be too. But this has been Kinetic Aesthetic. It's been your boy Germ, and I'll catch y'all later.